Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch Esports Roundup. So, we've got two regions to go through for Open Division Season 2. I am a bit late on this, but I have a backlog of videos and I'm trying to catch up on them. So, I don't have the bracket for South America, unfortunately, so I can't go through them, and that's annoying, I'm not going to lie, but we will go through North America and we will go through Europe as ever. So, let's start off with North America then, and in North America we saw We Got Dropped, Simplicity, Phase 2, Cyan Esports, Old Man Strength, Maryville University, Prestige, Golden Gophers, Drip, Exalt, The Weird Squad, Regen, Marquis Bagel Shop, Coke Gaming, Dark Mode Esports, and Out of Options. So, into the bracket then. In round 1 we saw Phase 2 taking on Out of Options. This was a 3-1 win for Phase 2 as you would expect, one of the better teams coming into this Open Division tournament. They would move on. Golden Gophers would get a 3-0 win over Drip, with them moving on. Cyan Esports would take on Marquis Bagel Shop. This would be a 3-0 win for Cyan Esports, with them moving on. Old Man Strength would get a 3-0 win over Regen. Simplicity would lose 3-2 to Dark Mode Esports, so that's a very bad start for Simplicity, who, you would expect to do fairly well during this Open Division tournament, considering they were in Contenders Trials. Prestige would take on Exalt. This would be a 3-1 win for Prestige, with them moving on. We Got Dropped would be taken on Coke Gaming. This was another close one, but Coke Gaming would get a 3-2 win. And Maryville University would take on The Weird Squad, and this would be a 3-1 win for Maryville, with them moving on to the quarterfinals. In the losers bracket round 1, we saw Drip taking on Out of Options. Another close one, but a 3-2 win for Drip saw them go through with Out of Options dropping out. Marquis Bagel Shop would take on Regen. This would be a 3-1 win for the Bagel Shop, and Regen would be falling out of Open Division at this point. I love that I have to say Bagel Shop in this. Exalt would take on Simplicity. Simplicity would get a 3-0 win here. You would kind of expect that, with Exalt exiting Open Division here. And then the Weird Squad would take on We Got Dropped, and this would be a 3-0 win for We Got Dropped, with them moving on to the losers bracket round 2. But first of all, we will take a look at the quarterfinals. This is Phase 2 taking on Golden Gophers. This was a surprise 3-1 win for the Golden Gophers, with Phase 2 dropping down to the losers bracket round 2. Again, a poor result for a team you'd expect to do better than this. Cyan Esports would take on Old Man Strength. This would be a 3-1 win for Cyan Esports. Dark Mode Esports would take on Prestige. This would be a close 3-2 win for Prestige. And Coke Gaming would take on Maryville University, with a 3-0 win for Coke Gaming, seeing them through to the semi-finals. In the losers bracket round 2, we saw Maryville University taking on Drip. This would be a 3-1 win for Drip. Dark Mode Esports would take on Marquis Bagel Shop. This would be a 3-1 win for Dark Mode Esports. Old Man Strength would take on Simplicity. This is a close one. Simplicity grind out a 3-2 win over Old Man Strength though. Old Man Strength, we keep hearing them come out, but they always fall that little bit short. Simplicity moving on, and Phase 2 would take on We Got Dropped, and this would be a very disappointing result for Phase 2, as they lose 3-2 to We Got Dropped, and Phase 2 will be dropping out of Open Division at this point, failing to make it to Contenders, and basically that meant the axing of their roster, if you saw the transfer roundup recently. Losers bracket round 3 then, Drip will take on Dark Mode Esports. This would be a 3-1 win for Dark Mode Esports, with them moving on, and Simplicity would get a 3-0 whenever We Got Dropped, and Simplicity would continue their run in the losers bracket. On to the semi-finals, and we saw Golden Gophers taking on Cyan Esports. This would be a 3-0 win for Cyan Esports, booking their place in the winners bracket final. Who would they be playing though? It would be either Prestige or Coke Gaming. This was a very close match, but Coke Gaming will get a 3-2 win, sealing their place in the winners bracket final. In the losers bracket round 4, we saw the Golden Gophers take on Dark Mode Esports. Again, a close match, but Golden Gophers will get a 3-2 win, and Prestige will take on Simplicity. And this is where Simplicity's run would end in Open Division, with a 3-0 win for Prestige, Simplicity dropping out of Contenders. So, not a good time for Phase 2 and Simplicity, the two teams that were kind of near the bottom of that Contenders sort of area, coming from that seeding tournament earlier in the year. Moving on to the losers bracket semi-final, and we see Golden Gophers taking on Prestige. This would be a dominant 3-0 win for Golden Gophers, with them moving on to the losers bracket final. In the winners bracket final, Cyan Esports will take on Coke Gaming. This would be a 3-1 win for Cyan Esports, booking their place in the grand final. But who would they be playing? We'd be finding out in the losers bracket final, where Coke Gaming took on Golden Gophers, and it would be a 3-0 win for Golden Gophers, allowing them to proceed on to the grand final against Cyan Esports. But in this grand final, which was a rematch of the semi-final, it was once again a very one-sided affair, with Scion Esports taking a 4-0 victory over Golden Gophers and winning Open Division Season 2 of North America for 2020. Really, really good display from Scion Esports. But again, there's some really cool names coming up here, and I love to see these new teams in action in contenders for North America, because we're not going to see Simplicity now, we're not going to see Phase 2. So it's going to be really, really interesting. So the people going through to contenders trials for North America will be Scion Esports, Golden Gophers, Coke Gaming, Prestige, and Dark Mode Esports. There is an extra spot to go through to trials because of some of the teams pulling out in contenders. Obviously, we've been talking about that in the previous few weeks. But now we will move over to the European side of Open Division, with the participants here being Vox Nihili, Barcelona Manticores, Mildly Annoyed Titans, I like that name, Avoided, Raspberry Racers, Raw Esports, Vasta Gaming, The Ultimates, Cosmos, HSL Academy, Chaos Insurgency, Spawn Campers, Purge, MBMC, Team Reality, and Profit SKG. So, in round 1, we saw Vox Nihili taking on Profit SKG, and this will be a 3-0 win for Vox Nihili, with them moving on. Ultimates would take on Cosmos, this would be a 3-2 win for Ultimates. Avoided would take on Purge, this would be a 3-0 win for Ultimates. Raspberry Racers would take on Spawn Campers, again a 3-0 win for Raspberry Racers would see them proceed. Barcelona Manticores would take on Team Reality, this would be a 3-2 narrow win for Barcelona Manticores. Vasta Gaming would take on HSL Academy, this would be a 3-0 win for Vasta. And Mildly Annoyed Titans would take on MBMC, this would be a 3-1 win for MBMC. And Raw Esports would take on Chaos Insurgency, and this would be a 3-1 win for Raw Esports. Let's move on to the losers bracket then, where we see in the losers bracket round 1, Cosmos taking on Profit SKG. This would be a narrow 3-2 win for Profit SKG. Spawn Campers would take on Purge. This would be a dominant 3-0 win for Purge. HSL Academy would take on Team Reality with a 3-0 win coming out here for Team Reality. And then Chaos Insurgency would take on Mildly Annoyed Titans, and this would be a 3-2 win for Chaos Insurgency. In the quarterfinals, we saw Vox Nihili taking on Ultimates. Again, a narrow match, but Vox Nihili would get a 3-2 win. Avoided would take on Raspberry Racers. This would be a 3-1 win for Raspberry Racers. Barcelona Manticores would take on Vasta Gaming. This would be a 3-0 win for Vasta Gaming, and MBMC would take on Raw Esports. And a 3-1 victory would see Raw Esports going through to the semi-finals. In losers bracket round 2, MBMC would take on Profit SKG. A dominant 3-0 win for SKG would see them going through. Barcelona Manticores would take on Purge. This would be a 3-1 win for Barcelona Manticores. Avoided would take on Team Reality, and Voided would get a 3-0 win here. And Ultimates would take on Chaos Insurgency, and this would be another narrow win for Chaos Insurgency 3-2. In the losers bracket round 3, Profit SKG would take on Barcelona Manticores, and this would be a 3-1 win for Profit SKG. And then Avoided would take on Chaos Insurgency, and once again, Chaos Insurgency don't do things very easily. A 3-2 win for the Insurgency would see them go through to the losers bracket round 4. In the semi-finals then, Vox Nihili would take on Raspberry Racers. Another dominant 3-0 win for the Raspberry Racers would see them go through to the winners bracket final. But who would they be taking on? Vasta Gaming would take on Raw Esports, and it would be Raw Esports going on to face Raspberry Racers with a 3-1 win over Vasta Gaming. In the losers bracket round 4, Vox Nihili would take on Profit SKG. This would be a dominant 3-0 win for Vox Nihili. Vasta Gaming would take on Chaos Insurgency, and yes, they don't do things by halves. Chaos Insurgency get a 3-2 win over Vasta Gaming. Again, really narrow game. They really don't make things easy on themselves. In the losers bracket semi-final, we see Vox Nihili taking on Chaos Insurgency, and finally Chaos Insurgency are a bit more dominant with a 3-1 win over Vox Nihili. And then, moving back to that winners bracket, we see Raspberry Racers taking on Raw Esports. Raspberry Racers get another dominant 3-0 victory here. In the losers bracket final, we see Raw Esports taking on Chaos Insurgency. Raw Esports would come out on top with a 3-1 victory, setting up a rematch in that grand final between Raspberry Racers and Raw Esports. But once again, it is a very dominant win for the Raspberry Racers, 4-0. So, Raspberry Racers are the winners of Open Division Season 2 in EU for 2020. And I am not entirely surprised. Raspberry Racers have got a very good squad at their disposal. So I think they're going to be actually a pretty good team coming into Contenders EU. But because, again, some of the teams disbanding in Contenders EU, there have been 5 teams going through from Open Division to the Contenders Trials. This will be Raspberry Racers, Raw Esports, Chaos Insurgency, Fox and Hilly, and Vasta Gaming. So, those are the people going through from the EU region. Again, as I said at the start of this video, I don't have the South American region, so I really can't act on that right now. And the Open Division, the Contenders Trials season and the Contenders season for certain areas has now kicked off, especially Trials, and I will be covering that in a coming video for the areas that have completed their weeks so far. That won't be very far away, so keep an eye out for that one. Also, we've got a bunch of other stuff coming on the channel. There is a backlog of videos that I want to bring out, so expect some double uploads in the coming few days to a week. I'm not going to give a specific timetable, but just keep an eye out for double uploads because there probably will be a few coming up. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.